First item, approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. We have minutes from August 24th meeting. Any changes before we proceed with those? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Have a motion and a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. Next item is approval of the agenda. We have 9 items on the agenda. We'll do our reports in between item number 8 and 9 because we're going to budget hearing at that point. But any changes before we proceed with the agenda? Got a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Motion and a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. No awards. No one signed up to speak today. No old business, so we'll move on to new business. And the first item of new business is a motion to approve annual public works bids with a list to be placed in the minutes. We had this presented to us last week, and I'll let Mr. Campbell go once more over this in general and entertain any other questions on it.
All the items that I'm recommended you'll find on your list. And most of the items are either only bidder or low bidder. The one exception I'll draw attention to is crushed limestone split bid, where I propose we split the bid between Madison Materials and Vulcan Materials. And that bid would be split based on rock delivered by the supplier or rock picked up by our trucks. In giving consideration to the local preference zone, with 3% greater than the bid amount, it still looks like that needs to be a split bid based on that. I can answer any questions about any of those items though.
Questions, comments? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
Make the motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Listen.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, next item, motion to approve and sign a resolution regarding county roads 107, 97, and 680. Again, this was presented to us at the previous work session. We'll entertain a motion for any further discussion. Have a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Motion and a second.
Second.
And any further discussion on this item? Do you have any comments on this, Mr. King?
No, sir. As I stated before, they were a citizen request with the exception of one, which was requested by the chief of police. A speed study is done based on 85th percentile of vehicle traffic speed.
So, motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, next item, motion to approve solid waste surplus vehicles. We have the list before us. Again, this was presented to us last week. In this list, well, we declare these surplus, but my understanding is we would not put these out on GovDeals or make the sale on them until we receive new trucks, right? Yes, sir. So this kind of goes hand in hand with item number 4. So are there any questions or comments on this before we proceed? I will note that kind of tying 4 into this, so looking at the dollars in the budget, the dollars are there within the solid waste or sanitation budget through the dollars allocated for capital lease and equipment, or capital lease of equipment. So we could easily, should be able to pay for another lease, a 3-year lease for the new truck, along with this sale of equipment, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So any other questions or comments? So we have a motion to approve the declaring these surplus.
So moved.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Okay. Next item, motion to approve the purchase of Mack truck for solid waste department. So this is the purchase of 3 new trucks to replace those that we just discussed. So anything else on this before we proceed? Do you have anything to add to it?
No, sir. That we're just getting late for the field slots on these trucks, and if we was to push much further out, there'd be an additional $2,500 per charge. Right now, they're honoring the price that they'd give us.
What is their intent on paying? I know we want to take the money that we got from the surplus vehicles and put toward them, but now we're not selling the surplus vehicles till we get these in place. So are we going to pay that amount out of our cash balance, purchase them, and then replace that amount?
We have one more payment next year, as I understand it, so we can do that within the budget that's allotted as it stands. As far as the payments on these vehicles, I would recommend we use that to supplement the first year's payment once those dollars come in, and then the next 2 years will fall within the budget. So if anything that goes in excess of that first payment can go into the cash balance, because either way you move it, it's going to go towards, go towards that in the future. So, but you are right, we would have to set up a lease agreement prior to even receiving those funds. And the total cost of this was $700?
$795,000
For 3 units.
for 3 new trucks, yes, sir.
You've got 2 on here.
2, I got, come down to the bottom line down here where it says purchase, 3 Mack Granics, at $265,000 each for
Oh, that one, okay, I'm sorry, what, the next 2. Okay. Gotcha. Any other questions, comments? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the purchase of these items? Move forward with that.
So moved.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Okay, next item, motion to approve the updated organizational chart. We had this last week, in case anyone needs a refresher. Here's a copy of the organizational chart for Public Works. The only thing different from the copy that we had last week, the 1 HMT 1 position should not be included in that at this time. We'll have to discuss that at a later time. So based on what we received last week, do we have a motion to proceed with updating the organizational chart?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? And essentially what this does, it does reorganize to different crews. Of course, who's within those crews is yet to be determined, but we have a supervisor and lead position in each of those crews. And I think Mr. Campbell's spoken with everybody, I believe, in some of the goals and things that he's trying to pursue over this next year. So motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Okay. Next item, motion to approve the job descriptions for the supervisor and lead. You have a copy of those in your packet. Do we have? Again, this was presented to us last week at the work session, so any questions or comments on this item? Have a motion to approve these items as presented.
Make that motion.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
This one I've got here says old one.
Yeah, mine says old one too.
Is there a revision?
There's a new one.
It's a different, this is for
We have maintenance supervisor.
maintenance supervisor, one from
Did you
maintenance
have
lead.
a lead position? You emailed the lead position too, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all we have is the old one here.
All right, let me get you a copy of the one I have.
Do we want to take a look at that now?
As long as there's, I mean, as long
What changed?
as we got change last
Yes,
work
sir.
session, didn't we?
Yeah, we have. Go ahead if you would, just, you can explain any changes in the lead.
The only change for the lead, I don't know if you should, there shouldn't have been, I don't know if there was another revision on the maintenance lead. Essentially how that arrived was some of the relationship language changed, as well as in the job summary, herbicide activity was added. It should look like that one.
That was the form and job description been updated, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And
Yeah, that
it was basically just language changes going from road maintenance superintendent to maintenance supervisor in the, throughout. And on other characteristics, number 5, which was have 5 years of experience in operation and maintenance of heavy equipment and road construction, was removed to be consistent with the maintenance supervisor description, where it had been removed there, and to better fit the org chart.
Are you requiring CDLs for these positions?
Yes, sir.
It just says driver's license, what I've seen.
Well, checking the, does it require CDL in the description?
I thought it did, but I'll have to look here.
Might want to add that.
Go ahead and amend your motion to include that.
Yeah.
You second that, Mr. Miller? Amendment. Okay. For both of these, I don't require correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second, and the only changes that we include requires a CDL. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Okay. Next item, motion to approve recommendation for filling the vacant supervisor. Again, if you didn't have yours from last week, this is the update, or the sheet from last week. This is the recommendations on the positions to fill. So, any questions or comments on that? We have a motion to approve the recommendation. And I'll real quickly, I guess I'll explain. The process for these positions, it was open just from within, so just individuals within the department. There were 2 sets of interviews, one kind of standardized interview process, and the second one, which was a little bit more of a question answer or a back and forth type thing. There were 4 or 5, I think, individuals that sat in on the interview process. So this was the 6 individuals, I think it is that correct?
Yes,
that were recommended from that committee to serve in these positions. Any questions on that? Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Motion, do we have a second?
I second that motion.
Any further discussion? Okay, a motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Okay, next item, motion to discuss aging contracts for council on aging. We received these contracts today, so again, this is like last week, we can vote on these today, we can postpone them. Real quickly, I'll go through the Medicaid waiver, and you can correct me when I'm wrong, or if I'm right here with. In regard to the Medicaid waiver contract, this is the program that does pay for itself. We are paid by the hour of services that we provide, correct? Yes. So on page 3, you'll see what that hourly rate is. So we are compensated. The dollars that we spend on this are below that hourly rate. So this program does fund itself and pay for itself. If you look on item C, under where those hourly rates are, it does say that this will not exceed the maximum sum of $800,000. We are well under that as far as the program operating, so that's not something we have to be concerned about as far as our program at this time. It'd be a nice problem to have, but I guess, we're not having to deal with that. Had a little discussion this morning on this, but are there any other immediate questions? Do we want to approve this pending final review by the attorney, or do we want to postpone it until the 28th? Do you have anything to add to it?
Do we receive the amount that's greater than what we paid for these investments.
What do you mean?
We received the funds.
We
Just
received
total
that hourly
amount.
rate.
What happens to the remainder of the money?
It goes into that fund every month. It's used to help with other activities and things that we need to do within that program. I believe that's the one also that we moved these employees over to the hiring service also, so some of these employees were affected by that. So several of them work through that process now, basically what we're using those dollars for.
It's pretty well the same thing we awarded last year, isn't it?
Yes.
Same contract.
Mhm.
You don't know any differences?
This one is,
I believe that the hourly amounts have increased slightly, and I believe that was mid-contract year last year. If they have any extra dollars, they will go ahead and give us an increase during the year.
this one otherwise hasn't changed much other than that, as I understand it.
I make a motion to accept,
Okay, you want to accept it pending?
pending attorney approval.
Okay. Have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Oh, you know what? Okay, that's just for the Medicaid waiver
Medicaid
contract.
waiver.
Right. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the Medicaid waiver portion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed say no. Okay, now in regard to the area agency contract, this is the general contract essentially that outlines a lot of the other activities that we handle within the COA. The dollars on this are the same as last year, correct?
Yes.
There are a couple of requirements that are changing as the number of units, I think, on some of the activities. We don't think that'll be any problem here under that, though,
No.
correct? Outside of that, again, it's pretty, the contract is similar to last year. I know that this is also pending some possibilities of what happens in Montgomery, is that correct?
That's correct.
So if this changes, and Mr. Porter, you may be able to answer, if the dollar amount changes, will that allow us to come back and review at that time?
Sure.
Okay. So based on this contract, I think it was $126,000 a year through TARCOG. That is one of the programs we supplement. However, through some of the things that have started, some different activities that have started out there, we see some other revenue coming in. So it looks like we'll still be able to cut our portion out as we discussed, and of course this contract will not affect what we change our funding for the COA. The programs that get cut will not be impacted by the contract.
Slightly.
Slightly. Well, we'll still be within the parameters of what we're required to do.
Right.
So in other words, we can meet our goals as per this contract. I guess that's the best way to say it. That's the best way to say it. Okay, do you have anything else to add to that, or?
No, I do still have to get that budget together, and then we can go over that. But I have significantly reduced it by moving things to another budget.
Okay. Any questions or comments? This does include the meal program. What other types of activities are included in this?
SHIP, which is the state health insurance program, and they do some transportation, even though RPT is a separate department. Any other activities, we have health promotion, any kind of activities that we have going on through the center, and an attorney we have coming there. Just all of our other activities other than the nutrition centers. And these dollars do not include meals. That's over and above these dollars.
Okay. So any questions or comments on this item? Do we have a motion to approve it pending attorney approval? Recommendations?
I'll make the motion to approve it. Can we?
Motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. I think the only one that we're left now is senior rep, that's right. And that was pending, definitely pending what happened at the state level, so we'll see what happens there. All right. Okay, next item to enter into the budget meeting, we'll go through our reports in case anyone wants to dismiss themselves before we go into the budget meeting. So, Mr. Manning, you have anything? Sheriff?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Commissioners, have anything for you for the budget meeting? Okay. So we'll take a quick recess and let Mr. Manning hand out some of the information on the budget and we'll get started on that. Oh, I do want to ask something before we go into the budget meeting. The appointments, we have several board appointments. I think we requested to postpone. We can continue our meeting today or we can have a meeting next Monday prior or after the work session just for those appointments, or we can make those appointments on the 28th. What is the will or recommendation?
I would rather wait for the 28th because I will be absent.
Okay. Okay, so we'll place those appointments on the business meeting for the 28th at 3 p.m. All right. All right, real quickly, we did discuss having the budget meeting to discuss if we had any further questions regarding the cuts that need to be made. But real quickly, I wanted to kind of go over the general fund budget overall. There are still some things, obviously, that will pending in some of the budget. Sanitation department committee needs to get together on that and make some decisions or recommendations on some different items there. Some of the administrative accounts, we need to review those and make sure that some of the cuts that have been presented are good. Those cuts are shown there, but we need to make sure that those can be finalized. So essentially what you have before you is your total revenue and total expenses budget for the general fund. Next week we'll have an entire budget for every department in the county so that you can review that the following week. And if we can get it out earlier by the end of this week, we'll try to get an email copy out so you have more time to review it. But essentially with the cuts, and this is cutting all general fund departments, what was originally proposed with the 4 hours, we have a budgeted revenue of $7,189,692, and your expense budget of $7,113,326. This is not a final budget, just to clarify. This is still a work in progress. A few things that need to be worked out and discussed. But with that, we're looking at between a $50,000 and $75,000 to the positive. If we stick with all the changes that have been made. Now again, there may be a few more things we work through this week as we go through a few more questions and issues. So with that, if we do move forward with this budget or there are not too many changes, then we will actually have a balanced budget come the 28th when we make that approval. So I think that's a very good thing. So questions or comments on this?
The 950 transferred in from 112. What revenue streams is this coming from?
That's the public relations bill. Oh, it's ad valorem taxes.
That's the exact same amount that was used last year, so now that's,
Ad valorem taxes.
It's on motor vehicles and, is it property too or just motor vehicles?
You got that up top.
Yeah, but there's a special tax in place that funds 112 only, and I think.
But it's still ad valorem.
Yes, it is all ad valorem.
And the 225 is
125 of that is the HARP, 100 of it is solid waste.
Any other questions or comments? You'll notice on the in lieu of tax, we did a 14% cut based on last year's number, and last year we budgeted $2,040,000. The actual revenue was 1.9 something. Remember, about 1.98 or something like that. So we went with a similar cut as last year. We hope but that's all, that we see. That's where your in lieu of tax dollar amount comes from as far as that, revenue. And essentially, across the board, which again, we can get a copy of this on the last year's budget if you don't have that copy to kind of compare, but revenues were pretty well flat across the board. Some were up, some were down, but overall it was flat. The biggest changes to this are the TV in lieu of taxes, interest was reduced, and was there something else that was reduced to a great extent, Mr. Manning?
No, I think the TVA and lieu was the main one. Interest, I think we just reduced it very small amount.
This number here is approximately 50%.
And TVA. Again, this is just a kind of review over the next couple days or whatever. As we get through with some of these final committees, we'll have a final budget to be presented at least by next Monday. Hopefully be voted on with any final tweaks in there. So that brings us, last week, of course, in the meeting we had discussed the cuts. So in regards to those cuts, are there any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts on how to proceed? We want to make that decision tomorrow in the meeting at 9 a.m. So any further thoughts on that?
Just food for thought, but we're gonna be 50,000 to the good.
This is about 70, I think it's about 70,000, but there are a couple of things I think we needed to still consider. So personally, I'd like to see 50,000 to the good to show that we have a balanced budget. It gives us not much, but a little wiggle room if we see that any revenues aren't there. We don't know what in lieu of taxes are, we know they're gonna drop, we don't know how much. But I think that's a good solid number to show that we do have a balanced budget. So that's where we're at with this.
Can we, add a $34,000 overtime budget for the sheriff's department to this?
Did we have that? We should have
I
added
think we
actually.
put, I believe we put 20,000 overtime
Already in this?
already in there.
Okay.
I can go.
What did you use roughly last year?
I didn't look at it. I'm gonna guess probably 20,000.
We were within, well, no, we didn't have a separate line item this year, did we?
No.
It just ran through the regular salary account last year.
And we may say 30,000. I think we've done that the first year we were in office, had that 30,000, but I think that should be at max enough if we did that. And we understand, obviously, even if we do cut hours, there is going to be the need for working over and working additional hours in certain aspects, because things, obviously, the nature of the business. So the sheriff's department, I think, is the biggest one of those. Public works, obviously, we have issues, emergencies,
20,000.
20.
Yeah,
Okay.
20,000.
Other questions or comments?
Where did you put that 20,000 you said?
That's on your expenses. If you look, page 3. So about halfway down on the page, 001, 52, 100, 116.
And because this is a work in progress budget, I guess, in the system, it prints it out like this. So your account number,
This is showing overtime for your whole general fund, though.
Yeah, well, this is
Not
52, 100 is just the sheriff.
52,100
Right,
plus the sheriff.
just the sheriff's department.
yeah, it doesn't separate the departments like we see in the other budgets we get. Once we get an approved budget, it separates the departments. So when we present this next week, you'll actually have department by department, correct, as we've done in the past?
Well, these are just general fund.
Yes, just general fund departments. So if you want to, real quick, we can run through what each one is. 51,100 is your commission office. If anyone wants to make that. 51,130
That's the general, that's the commission's general expenses, like the insurance, building insurance. Just a few general items are in that one.
$51,260.
50, well, you skip 51,110.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's the building maintenance out there.
That was 260.
51.
Might be better for us just to email, do you have last year's, is that what you're looking at, last year's?
Right.
Maybe better to email that and then they can kind of compare it. If we want to do that.
Whatever they need, the either one. We're gonna go down it right
Can
now.
we continue going down?
Yeah, sure,
like we're
we
doing?
can. We was at 51,130 was the county general expenses of any of the 51,260s. And that's the district attorney's supplement. 51,280 is the court reporters that we have to supplement. 51,290 courthouse security. 51,300 probate judge.
Probate.
Correct. 51,400 revenue commissioner. 51,910, that's the elections. 2 elections, I guess, coming up next year.
And on the election side, budgeted basically 50% of the revenue to expense. That's about what we've seen in some past years. Purely, it's kind of a guesstimate. This last election actually only cost us $50,000 around about, I think. This next election will cost more, obviously, because I think there's more probably.
Yeah, but you'll be splitting that with the state, won't you?
Right, that's why we budget 50% reimbursement on it. So, you know, we went with the $80,000 number we had, but we did 50% of that back on the revenue side from the state. So whatever number we say in there is kind of a moot point, I guess, on what we get back.
And 51,920 board of registrars.
What is that now?
Board of registrars.
And that is with the cut.
With the $60 a day reduction. Or reduction to $60 a day.
Yeah, that's
52,100, as I mentioned, that's the sheriff's department. 52,400, coroner's department. 52,600 is juvenile services, juvenile detention. 55,450, animal control. And you'll see the transfer out to the jail maintenance. Transfer out to EMA, the next one, and then transfer out, we just combine COA and all their funds into one line.
And after, again, we've got budget meeting Wednesday, so Tuesday, on some of these, so again, once we complete all those, we'll get the details listed on the for everybody to review. If there are any further questions, we can have a budget meeting again Monday after our meeting to discuss anything else within that more detailed information.
Do I have to continue till the morning?
Yes, we'll vote tomorrow morning. We're planning to vote on whatever cuts we plan to do for the hourly cuts we discussed.
Did you break out legal services per department?
They should be in there. For
Yes.
I see one on revenue, but I don't see one for probate, and I don't see one for,
Some departments don't have any, it's mainly public works, general fund.
You broke it out to the ones that have a separate cost or
The
something?
departments that do budget a line item for that, they should be in there, yes.
But the probate judge uses a attorney, where's it get charged to?
I don't think we've charged anything in the probate judge's office all year or last year. We got a few things with the revenue commission mapping. We do have some things with public works, a lot of pertaining to roads, things of that nature.
Sheriff don't have legal services either.
We did use that some this
We
year.
used it some last year. First year we tracked it. I think we used, we did have a few items in there.
So
last
what are
year.
you gonna charge it to if the sheriff uses it to the
It's
commission?
General commission.
Does the general accounts one cover any legal services?
Just in the commission office.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yeah, we're still a couple more things, I think. Tomorrow, we have to make a decision. Any questions on that at this time? Recommendations, thoughts on how to proceed? We'll make a decision in the morning when we get there.
Well, the legal services that we've got proposed, you know, is drastically reduced from what,
It doesn't include though, you've got the
Public
40,000, right, you've got public works outside of that, sanitation, I don't know if the parks had.
Revenue may have a small, revenue department may have some.
revenue's got
Biggest-
2,500.
Biggest part's gonna be in the commission office probably, where everything legal in there.
Most of the, if you look at how it's separated, the legal fees are essentially charged to us, except where they may benefit the general fund, so charging to you know, solid waste or public works where they operate under different types of funds, they're charged to those departments. So if you take into consideration the amount there plus the amount charged from the various other departments, is mapping, do they have any legal, or is it all done in revenue?
I think we do, I think we do a small amount for mapping. Not honestly, I have to go look, their funds, naturally not in this one, but.
We were at about $5,000 at the end of July, if that helps you.
You don't recall where you were at, do you, Darryl?
No, sir. No, we had right at 5,000, I think 2,500, I'm believing is the number, roughly.
I can get to that. Now, if you want to. If we need to break it out to every department, you know, that would be the thing to do. I thought we had one with every department in the last, or at least we had a line item, we may not have had it budgeted, but we may want to move that budget around from the commission to those various departments so it's more clear.
There's about 4 or 5 departments that we were charging legal fees to total.
Right.
Previously, you know, we poured all in. So we
Right, I
just-
thought we changed last year and put it to each department,
Yeah,
that's why I was asking that.
this past year, it went to, I'm thinking it was maybe a total of 5 departments got the legal fees split out to them.
Would it be a
And
problem?
I can get you a
to-
copy of the total year to date, where it's at, if you'd like, that help anything.
Would
Yes,
it be a problem to separate it by budget, like sheriff and jail or whatever else? Is that what you're thinking?
No, I just thought we did that last year, and then I noticed that it's not on,
Just in the sheriff's department or something?
you know, I thought we went to each department and did legal services and charged it out to those departments.
got, like I say, the biggest chunk is sitting in, the commission office. That's where generally most of it falls due to its personnel issues or whatever type of work we're doing there. Generally, that's what's catching most of it.
Did you have the sheriff's budget for last year with you there, Don? If you don't, we can look at it, or I can grab it, whatever we need to do.
Last year, 2,946 year-to-date through 10 months.
That was charged to the sheriff's
That was
office?
charged to the
Okay.
sheriff's office.
So
We didn't
that's what
budget
you-
anything last year, but we did
So the
cap.
question, do we want to budget it to those departments, or do we want to leave it all together and charge it to on the commission? We can take that expense we've got listed under the commission office and separate that out if we need to. And we need to look and see.
I was really making sure we had it covered.
Yeah, we need to look and see the total budgeted last year, or the total expense last year in the commission office budget. To be sure that that does cover, you know, if we have $2,000 here, $2,000 there. We'll look at that.
We did review that on legal services.
We did? Okay. Thank you. Is that what we looked at Friday?
Yeah, that's what we was looking at the other day. We did.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, we may need to look a little bit more at that.
That total one.
Because that's just for our funds. That doesn't include the sheriff's or whoever, some of those other funds that aren't budgeted, right? That's just what we charge the commission office.
Just that first page,
Yeah.
But there is some in a couple of other departments, I think.
What we'll do is we'll get a list of the ones where we don't have a budget for those in those departments and kind of see what we spent last year and make sure it's enough to cover it all. See what you're saying. Any other questions or comments? Alright, something to chew on. Any comments again about the decision for tomorrow, or questions about anything so that you can make one? Yes, sir.
Does that include what you and I talked about, this budget? Are you still taking 8 hours away from my people at the jail?
This includes cuts across the board, yeah, 4 hours per week or 8 hours.
So when did
per
we
day.
discuss what, you talked about the other day?
If you want to,
No.
if you want to discuss it.
If y'all can help me out of the two budgets that I have, the jail is the lowest one. I have enough money to help pay for my office and keep it up and running. On maybe to the end of the year, maybe on a month-to-month basis. If there's any way y'all can help me at the jail.
You're saying,
I'll pay for the difference in the salaries of some of the money that we have
to keep the jail
to keep
operating?
to
Keep
keep the
these
office
people in the
operating.
sheriff's office. He wants us to do
But
the
I'm
jail.
asking, can y'all do the jail? That's the lowest of the two budgets to overcome. And I'm giving y'all the lowest one,
You have a dollar amount on that?
80,000, what we came up with the other day.
That's a year, no, that is.
That was for a year.
Let me
So,
take that
I mean,
100,000.
We were discussing that there may be some income coming in later months that might could change everything. So we're just trying to service the people in the county until we see what that's gonna have to do.
It costs approximately 25,000. I'd have to get the numbers together, and I'd need to do that for your part too. But approximately $25,000 to fund the jail through the end of the year, just through the end of the year. And as far as liability goes, did you say you thought there might be a concern there?
Well, there is concern with the jail. And we got discussed the other day that my biggest concern with cutting the jail down below the minimum number to provide for safety for the employees and the inmates is that courts have held that jailers are not deputy sheriffs, and so therefore they're not entitled to immunity if they get sued. But deputies, the sheriff and deputies are entitled to qualified immunity, which protects them somewhat, not 100%, but somewhat. But the jailers are, I mean, and I don't know what the numbers are, I don't have any opinions about what the minimum number of staff would be, but that would be my concern, is that if we cut the jail down to a spot that is not satisfactory, and somebody gets hurt, either an inmate or one of the employees, then we got an issue, and that's my concern about that.
That's something, again, we can consider for tomorrow. I'll get the numbers together so we have an idea that if we want to consider that tomorrow morning, we can consider that with this. If we move forward with that to 25,000 again, I don't see where we can do much more than that because we're slim on our budget as it is, obviously. We fought really hard. Everybody has really. I mean, the cuts. You know, even with the changes that have been made as we've gone through this budget process with every department we've been with, they've still been looking at what else can I cut this year. You know, in addition, knowing that they've got to cut the hours back, we still look at other stuff that can be cut. So everybody's worked really hard to get us where we're at as far as what this is. Again, still some things to hammer out for the final numbers, but this is pretty close to where we're looking at ending up. So I do appreciate everybody that's contributed to the process.
With the commission's approval, I would be willing to donate my fund to that interest.
Okay. That might make it more feasible. I'll take a look at that. We'll have those numbers in the morning too. Your fund from this year, right? $1 from this year. Okay.
I would too. I'd do mine too. Everybody wants to do that. And that will almost cover till the end of the year, I think. Be close, no, I don't hardly cover it, but
What is in your fund? 5, 4?
5, I think, involved.
Maybe about half.
Close to it.
We'll be close to.
Okay, I'll get those numbers together if we want to consider that for in the morning. Are there any other things that we need to be prepared for or have information for in the morning? Anything else? You plan to, you said take care of the sheriff's department.
I'll do my part with the sheriff's office, you know, like I said, on a month-by-month basis, if something comes in, something changes, and, you know, I expect y'all to help us just like you don't help everybody else.
If we do that, again, we can decide tomorrow which, you know, if you fund it, that's your prerogative, I guess. We'll have to set up a reimbursement process and how that'll work. All right, any other questions, comments? I'll be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the morning.
What time is the meeting in the morning?
9 a.m.
Well, that's supposed to be my budget hearing in the morning, but we'll do it tomorrow evening.
Tomorrow afternoon, we can do it whenever, but.
Okay.
All right, anything else? Okay, I think that includes everything. Do we have anything else, reports of any kind? We'll have the 9 a.m. budget meeting. We've got our work session next week, and then we'll hopefully be prepared to pass a budget on the 28th, a balanced budget on the 28th. All right. So we have a motion to adjourn for this evening.
So moved.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no.